everyone, and welcome to the Mag Show. Today, we're going to be reviewing episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again, and boy, am I ever excited. I've been waiting a very long time for this. This show has been on my docket for many years, and now we're finally here, and I wanted to see if Disney can actually pull this off after what I consider to be 5 years of absolute mediocrity. So, let's get right into the show. Now, before I get into that, I want to preface this video with the fact that I will be spoiling many plot points, okay? There's no way that I'd be able to discuss what's happening in the show without spoiling it. So I just wanted to give you that warning right away. And if you haven't watched the show, go watch the show. Make sure you're here, like and subscribe before you leave. And then come back to here and watch the episode and my review on it. And then I want to hear your thoughts as well. So anyways, without further ado, let's get into the show. Once again, spoiler warning about what's going to be coming up. Now, opening shot. Screen opens up like this. And what do we have? A beautiful shot of Hell's Kitchen. And man, it looked like someone hand-painted this thing. It looked straight off of a comic. I mean, it honestly was just dripping with vibe, and I was just all for it, man. And when I saw that, to me, personally, that was a statement. That was a statement of them saying, we're back. This is how we're going to do it. Go back to the grassroots, and we're going to give you a real comic book show that you deserve, just like the old days there when I was watching Daredevil on Netflix, and, of course, The Punisher Season 1 and 2. Also, some of my favorite comic book stuff ever made. I really enjoyed both of them, man. I was a huge fan of both. So, either way, we're going to get into that. So, what ended up happening? We've got Matt Murdock, we've got Paige, we've got Nelson, and what are they doing? Nope, they're not in the law room. No, they're not in the law firm. No, they're not in the courthouse. They're drinking. They're drinking alcohol and having a great old time in Hell's Kitchen because that's what lawyers do, man. Work hard, play harder, right? So, anyway, they're having a great old time doing all that, and then, you know what? Fast forward, all hell breaks loose. What ends up happening? People start dropping like flies. Bullets start flying, but they seem a little bit too precise. So of course, you got to think to yourself, wait a minute, there's only one man that can not miss a shot. And no, we're not talking about Will Smith and Suicide Squad, folks. We're talking about Bullseye. And so, yes, Bullseye makes an appearance, and people start getting hit with bullets, man. It gets pretty wild. But I got to tell you, the one sad little thing is that Nelson gets nailed. That's right. Right in the heart, man. He gets nailed right in the heart with a bullet. He takes one, and he's on the ground, and he's dying, and he's doing his thing, whatever. And then what ends up happening, Bullseye walks in and just randomly starts killing people, or at least so we think it's random. Obviously, there's something behind all this, which we're going to have to find out later on in the show. But either way, Nelson takes one, man. And, of course, Matt disappears, shows up again as Daredevil in full costume, ready to go. He's got his grappling hook. He's got his little poles. He's ready to rock. And then, of course, the fight starts, right? The fight starts right through the window, just like an old Western-style saloon. That gets on the floor. They're going up there. They're going up the stairs. What was really cool is that during that fight, Matt Murdock while he's fighting Bullseye, he turns his head every once in a while just to listen because he could hear Foggy's heartbeat, right? And so I'm just like, oh man, he actually is just making sure that he's still alive, right? So it was pretty wild. They end up on the roof, whatever else. Also, another interesting thing, man, the adrenaline is obviously going through Matt Murdock because at one point you see him kind of turn as he's fighting Bullseye up the stairs on their way to the roof, and the dude's got 7 throwing knives stabbed into him. And I'm just like, holy crap, this is wild. Anyways, it gets up onto the roof. What ends up happening? Of course, Foggy succumbs to his injuries and he dies. And I think that Matt Murdock does probably one of the most metal things I've ever seen a superhero do. He grabs Bullseye by face, and just as he's sobbing and so upset or whatever, he just grabs him by the face and casually throws him to his death off the building without even turning around to look at him. And of course, Bullseye does not die. We presumed he was dead, but man, that was such a metal move, man. I was just all in on that. But either way, it set up one hell of an opening to this show. The music, the atmosphere, the just again dripping in just misery and sorrow and darkness. I mean, this is what Daredevil's all about, right? And so they just nailed that. I'm just like, holy crap. That's the way you set the tone. Anyways, I'm going to skim over some other stuff here, some other plot points that showed up. Of course, Wilson Fisk had to make his return, right? And Wilson Fisk, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, of course, just magnificent in the role. I mean, he's just so perfect. I mean, just the way he delivers his dialogue and just his screen presence is just incredible. Anyways, he's running for mayor. And, well, his wife, or estranged wife, you want to call her that? You can call her that. And now what she's doing is she's kind of running his underground business now, right? So she's running the underground business. He's off trying to become mayor, so he's trying to keep a squeaky clean image. But, I mean, it's pretty hard to when everybody knows you as the kingpin. It's going to be pretty difficult. But either way, he's kind of trying to distance himself from that, at least in the public eye. And at the same time, his wife is running the underground business with the mafias and everything else and the gangs and so on and so forth. So either way, that's what he's doing now. There's something else I have to kind of address, and I got to address this because it's so bloody obvious. The writers just couldn't help themselves, but I mean, you could see that this whole Fisk running for mayor is just one gigantic Trump allegory. I mean, it's just so clear as day that they just went shot for shot with the whole like Trump and the MAGA movement and the people opposing it. I mean, they even say in the show they're like, well, 50% love him and 50% hate him and this and that. And I'm like, guys, we kind of get it, right? Like, you don't have to do this, but they did it anyway. Whatever. I'm just going to kind of move on from it. I'm here for the entertainment, man. I'm not here for any of that other stuff. So either way, I just thought I'd point it out because it's pretty obvious. A few other things that happen in there is that, of course, Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk meet up at some point. And once Matt Murdock catches wind that he's running for mayor, the two of them sit down, they have some apple pie, and they have some tea and a coffee, and they have a little discussion, and a whole lot of warnings and foreshadowings about what could possibly happen in the future if either one step out of line, so to speak, right? So we all know what's coming next. Either way, some other plot points that were interesting. We had a moment where there was a gentleman walking into a subway station. He sees two guys bullying another guy, beating one up or whatever. He goes down there to kind of save the day, vigilante style, right? And anyways, push comes to shove, no pun intended. The dude that was getting bullied kind of runs away. One of the cops, what ends up happening? He goes flying into a subway full tilt. Although I've never seen a subway move that bloody fast on a platform, but whatever. I'll just let it pass because it was obviously there for dramatic effect. Either way, he dies. The other dude that was with him pulls out a gun, pulls out a badge, and says, NYPD, put your hands up, whatever, this and that. This guy gets arrested for murdering a cop. And so anyways, why is this important? It only is important because then Matt Murdock ends up at the police station for another reason entirely. And of course, with his super hearing, he can overhear something going on. He ends up going into that room, finding this guy and saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to represent your case, this and that, whatever. So he ends up trying to do that. Now, he did ask him a question, though, and he realized that this man was actually telling the truth. And he's like, okay, this guy did not kill the police officer. But when Matt pushed him with another question, his heart started to beat a lot faster. Why? Because he's hiding something. And Matt knew he was hiding something. And now it's no longer just professional, a courtesy that he's going to help this guy. Now he's got curiosity on his side going, what the hell is this guy trying to hide from all of us, right? Anyways, of course, Matt Murdock has a retired police officer, a retired detective who works for him, and he does a lot of gumshoe work and a lot of private investigation stuff. Sends him over to the gentleman's wife's place, whatever. And what does he find as he's snooping around the room? He finds a costume under the bed. That costume, of course, is White Tiger. And turns out that this guy is actually White Tiger. That would be Hector Ayola. And that would be, I believe, is from a comic from the late aughts. I would like to say around 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. White Tiger, they also in the show mention an amulet. They mentioned it a couple times. They go, oh, he didn't have his amulet on him or this and that, whatever. And I'm like, what's this amulet all about? Turns out the amulet is something that White Tiger puts on. This is like a street level vigilante. This is not in the same level as, like, I know some people make the comparison with Black Panther because some of the powers are the same. This is not the same echelon as Black Panther. Black Panther is he's an Avenger. He's in the top tier. And of course, we're talking about a whole different thing. This guy's more like a street level thing. However, this amulet gives him agility, speed, strength, all those different things, just accentuates all those different attributes, and so makes him, more superhuman, kind of like the super serum does to Captain America, the same kind of vibe, right? Except it's an amulet. But either way, that's where that story's going, and we don't know exactly where that's going because we only saw 2 episodes, right? So we're going to see where that storyline goes. It looks to be pretty interesting, and I look forward to more of that. Something else I found funny, is that now, of course, Murdoch. This is a year after the after Foggy dies, and Murdoch is now part of a law firm called Murdoch and McDuffie. McDuffie sets him up on a date with the girl. She turns out to be a psychiatrist or whatever. They end up talking. They end up hitting it off and everything else, and they sort of are slowly but quickly falling in love and all that jazz. What was really funny is towards the end of the second episode, she takes on a private client, and she takes on this private client, and who is it? None other than Wilson Fisk and his wife. And it was really funny to see them sitting there having marriage counseling with this woman. And that's going to add a whole new dynamic because now she's going to know inner detailings and intimate detailings of Wilson Fisk and his wife and what's going on there. But at the same time, she's dating Matt Murdock. I mean, this is like that kind of love triangles you only see in Cobra Kai. But either way, I'm all for it, man. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it should be great. Anyways, there is one other thing I wanted to discuss before I end this video, and it's about how Matt eventually, I won't bore you with the details, but eventually finds that guy, the guy that was getting bullied in the subway station by the two cops. He ends up finding that guy. And he goes into the apartment. And he's telling you, like, dude, go out the fire escape. These guys are coming to kill you or whatever because now you're going to be a star witness to this situation, right? So, anyways, he sends them out, and then of course the two cops bust open the door, and what ends up happening? They're standing there staring at Matt Murdock, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" Blah, 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 and whatever, right? They're being bullies and all that. And then one of the cops grabs him and puts him up against the wall. As he puts him up against the wall, on his left wrist, you guessed it, folks, he has a tattoo of the skull of the Punisher. And I'm like, what the hell is that now? Does he have like a legion of people that work for him? Does he have like a cult following? Is it something that he doesn't sanction? It's just something that people are doing on the side because they sort of idolize him. That's what I'm thinking it is, because I don't think the Punisher likes to work with anybody. Not really a fan of that. And then on top of that, I don't think he wants like a whole army of people doing his bidding. That's not his style at all. But anyways, that is what happened. Anyways, they push and push and push and push Matt. And of course, Matt has not been Daredevil for well over a year now. And he kind of snaps and he beats the crap out of one, and I'm pretty sure he murdered the other one. So he beat the crap out of one, and the guy gets knocked unconscious. He falls to the ground. The other guy, he just repeatedly smashes his head into the freezer, and then eventually he slams him into the ground. And my God, it was a sickening sort of neck snap as his body just went, wah, and then he ended up on the ground. And of course, Matt just realizes that he's freaking out. He starts like breathing heavy. He's got blood on him and everything else, and he just goes, ah! And then of course it cuts to black, and there it is. That is the fastest that I could probably describe those two episodes of Daredevil Born Again. I'm all for it. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I would have given it a little bit higher, but I found that some of the dialogue in the middle parts of the episode, in between the action and in between the story progression, some of the conversations really dragged down. The writing was a little bit bogged down with a lot of exposition about what's most likely going to happen, to come to fruition in the rest of the season. I think that because it bogged down a little bit, I kind of lost interest here and there. I'm like, all right, I get it. I get what's happening here. Can we move this forward a little bit, right? And I think that they could have just picked up the pace a bit. I'm not talking about action sequences. I don't need more action sequences. I just needed the dialogue to push the story further forward in a more positive direction. I just found that it just kind of muddled and sat there for a while. Like there was some areas like 10 to 12 minutes where it just sagged. And when you only have like a 1 hour episode with 8 minutes worth of credits, well, if you got another 10 minutes of sag, essentially you've only got like about 39 minutes of perfect viewing material, right? So that's a little bit slow for me. But either way, I'm still going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'm very optimistic about the future of the series. I will be reviewing every single episode, every single week, and I look forward to hearing what you think about this. So either way, everybody have a great night. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit like, subscribe, and all that jazz, and stay magnificent.